Hi, if you are watching this video, then that means you have an interest in working on board a cruise ship. In this video, I will detail the full application process to apply for shipboard employment through Mexicrew Maritime Services. But before we begin, let me give you some background on Mexicrew Maritime Services. Please note, Mexicrew Maritime Services does not charge any fees to candidates for its services. Mexicrew Maritime Services is a Latin American seafarers recruiting and placement service agency. The agency is responsible for recruiting crew members from Mexico, Central and South America, and Jamaica. They do so on behalf of international cruise line brands such as Mystic Cruises, MSC Cruises, Oceania Cruises, Marella Cruises, Regent Seven Seas, Virgin Voyages, and Norwegian Cruise Line. For Jamaican nationals, the agency is authorized to recruit on behalf of Mystic Cruises, Oceania Cruises, Marella Cruises, Regent Seven Seas, and Virgin Voyages. So, what is the relationship between Mexicrew Maritime Services and the cruise line companies? Let me explain. Cruise line companies need persons to work on board their ships. To assist them with their recruiting efforts, they will sometimes engage the services of a crew management company. Due to the large volume of applicants to ensure a diverse mix of candidates, the crew management company will then engage the services of recruiting agencies worldwide. These recruiting agencies are referred to as hiring partners. Case in point, Mexicrew Maritime Services. The hiring partner is then responsible for recruiting candidates in their designated areas. Likewise, candidates may apply directly to the cruise line company or to the crew management company. Generally, once candidates are approved for interviews with the cruise line companies or the crew management company, the profile is then forwarded to the hiring partner closest to the candidate. Please note, Mexicrew acts as agents only for the hiring companies. Therefore, all inquiries and communication are made by Mexicrew on behalf of the hiring companies. Crew members are not employed by Mexicrew. This means at no time does an employer-employee relationship exist between Mexicrew Maritime Services and any candidate or crew member. Now that you know who we are, what are some of the basic requirements for applying for shipboard employment through our agency? Candidates need to have at least 1 to 2 years experience in a similar role. This is necessary because the cruise ship environment is very dynamic and often fast-paced. Having previous knowledge of your job role will make it easier for you to settle in your first few weeks. Candidates should have a good command of the English language, as this is the official language spoken on board the cruise ships. While in some instances it can be overlooked if a person has several years of experience, candidates are usually required to have a skill certification or equivalent. Once a candidate meets the basic requirements, then they may submit a full application package. The application package will consist of the application form, one passport-sized picture taken against a plain white background, a resume with a Skype ID included. Please note that the Skype ID is mandatory as this is how the interview will be conducted online. 2 reference letters from a previous employer and your current employer. If you are not able to source the letters from your employers, then you may use your two last performance evaluations. If you do not have access to the two last performance evaluations, then the letters may be written by a notary public. Lastly, a copy of a valid passport. Once you have gathered all your documents, your application package should look like what you're seeing on the screen now. This should include your application form, fully completed, signed, and dated, one passport size photograph, a copy of your resume with your Skype ID included, two reference letters or two past performance evaluations, and a copy of your passport. Once the full application package has been submitted, candidates will be contacted for a pre-screening interview. The purpose of this interview is to collect standard information about the candidate to determine if they meet the basic requirements. Upon successful completion of the pre-screening interview, the online interview will be arranged and the date and time communicated to the candidate. So, what happens after the online interview? Now, once a candidate has completed the online interview, the next step is to wait for the recruiting agency to make contact. Generally, the interviewer will prepare and send the interview report to the recruiting agency within 24 hours. The recruiting agency will then send the job offer email to the successful candidate within 3 to 5 business days. Only if the candidate accepts the job offer will they receive the official welcome email. This welcome email will outline the documents the candidate will need to source as they prepare for their first contract. It is very important to note the candidate will assume full responsibility for the costs associated with obtaining their profile documents. What are the documents required after approval and after the candidate has accepted the job offer? As candidates prepare for their contract on board the ship, they will be required to source documents to create and complete their profile. These documents will include a proof of COVID-19 vaccine and the relevant booster shot, a valid local police record for your criminal background check, STCW certifications. STCW stands for Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping. This certification is necessary for anyone wishing to work on a commercial marine vessel that is over 24 meters long. The purpose of this training is to certify that an individual is able to identify safety hazards at sea and know how to respond in an emergency situation. These courses will include the basic safety training, crowd management, crisis management and human behavior, and security awareness. We encourage all approved candidates who have accepted the job offer to immediately register at the Caribbean Maritime University to complete their training. The cost of this training is currently $770 US. The training itself takes approximately 10 days. The certificates are valid for a period of 5 years. US C1D visa. This is a transit or crew member visa. It is a combination of two visas for persons who have to board ships or airplanes as crew members. Candidates will apply for the visa after they have received their letter of employment, LOE. The candidate may apply for the visa independently or through a local travel agent. The current cost to apply for the US C1D visa is $160. Total processing time is 5 to 10 business days after your interview. The visa is usually valid for 5 years. Seaman's Identity Book. The Seaman's Identity Book will outline a full record of the seaman's career experience. Candidates may apply for their Seaman's Identity Book at the Passport Office once they receive their letter of employment. Pre-Employment Medical (PEME). The pre-employment medical is a comprehensive occupational health examination, the purpose of which is to ensure that candidates are fit for duty. It is the full responsibility of the candidates to read the medical forms carefully and ensure that they complete all areas correctly to avoid unnecessary delays. The complete medical document will include the medical certificate provided by the doctor, the completed ship medical forms, all laboratory results, and all vaccination cards. Crew members may commence the PEME 45 days before the official start date of their contract. A complete and valid PEME must be submitted for review at least 21 days prior to joining the ship. In some instances, candidates might be required to source other documents. These documents might include additional visas, flight ticket, and accommodation. Currently, a COVID PCR test is also mandatory for all crew members. But don't worry, the agency will advise you of all documents required to complete your profile. Final clearance. The medical team will review the pre-employment medical of each candidate to ensure that all results are within the correct range. Once the medical team gives the final clearance, an email will be sent to the candidate with their final set of instructions and reminders before they leave the island. On average, without delays, this process will take approximately 2 to 6 months from the moment the candidate does the interview until they finish their medical. And there you have it, the full application process from start to finish. Happy sailing!